Okay, so the surface is ready to receive the drawing now. It's had a couple of days to dry and harden up, and the finish has been sanded down quite a bit so that it's a fairly smooth surface, certainly a lot smoother than you would have typically with a canvas surface. Um, One thing to keep in mind here is that the end goal is not to do a pretty drawing, but to do a good painting. And so the drawing itself, as long as the proportions are right, it doesn't need to be particularly detailed with no shading or any of that. All we're trying to make sure is that all of the elements in the image are at the right location and that the proportions are right. And so the simplest and quickest way to do that at this point is simply to create a grid across this surface that will match up with a grid on the tablet. And that just allows me to make sure that everything's in the right location. So I'm going to proceed to the creation of the grid, and then I'll show you on the tablet itself exactly what that looks like. Okay, so I've got the 4x3 grid, so they're 10-inch squares, and the corresponding image on the tablet, which is also a 4x3 grid. And so to simply transfer the image now is just a matter of marking those points where the image intersects lines on the grid, and then once those positions are determined, it's just a matter of doing the curves. So we're trying to find here on these lines where things are intersecting. So for example, this piece of fruit here, we know that there's a line that intersects here. I'm going to move to the next one, which is down here. There's an intersecting line. So I'm about 3 hours in on this drawing. I think that most of the fruit elements are correctly placed, more or less, and in proportion. The next thing I'm going to tackle is the bowl down here. This is where it gets a little bit complicated when I'm doing these glass reflection pieces, because the image tends to become very abstract when you get into all of this reflected light. The idea then is just to pull out the major breaks in the lines in those abstract elements, or semi-abstract, I guess, since it does represent something. From there, when you get to the painting stage, then you can really refine that line set to really try to get at that hyper-realist sort of look. So here we go. So the drawing is all done. Proportionally, I think things are where they need to be. The next step in the process is to coat this drawing with a layer of spray fixative. So I have to take the whole thing outside because this product is pretty toxic all in all. I'll drag this outside and spray it down, and then in the next episode we'll get into the painting, the fun part of the process.